Ladies and gentlemen, give a Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame welcome to Class of 2018's Rick Welts. Are you, sir? It's such a pleasure. Here you go. Take a seat right there.
All right. Is that your good side? Okay.
I don't really have one.
I don't either.
I've been working.
It's okay.
I'm overdue to discover.
Checking, make sure we don't have any LeBron jerseys in the house. Looks like we're good to go.
I see a lot of Golden Gate Bridges on shirts, though.
See? That's not the Golden Gate Bridge.
Will you educate me?
That's the Bay Bridge. That's
The
not
Bay.
Yeah, that's not the Golden Gate Bridge.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
No.
All right.
So, Rick, first of all, congratulations. It's such an honor to be here today with you 4 weeks ahead of the moment that this building changes forever, but the moment that your life, which is already so punctuated by these incredible accomplishments, also changes forever, because in just 4 weeks, as I told our audience, you will be enshrined as a member of the class of 2018. So I'm gonna start where I usually finish, which is to ask you to try to contextualize this moment for us. This particular visit to Springfield, sitting on this court, knowing the next time you're here, everything changes. What's this moment right now like for you?
So I guess I'm going to wake up at some point, and this is all a dream, right? So, because it doesn't really happen to people like me, right? It's kind of something I've enjoyed coming to the hall year after year after year, cheering for people I've known that have been inducted, but it's certainly incredibly humbling. Nothing that I ever imagined in my wildest dreams. So truly an honor to be here today, and it'll be an amazing event a month from now.
It's going to be an amazing event for all of us, but for you personally, and you said this doesn't happen to people like me. I think about, and we'll talk about your start in basketball, which includes a stint as a ball boy, begins with a stint as a ball boy for the Seattle Supersonics. Is there a little bit of that guy, of that kid, I should say, you were 16 years old, is there still a little bit of that kid in there that just still can't believe that your career has done what it has done?
No, there's a whole bunch of that kid. I was just telling the story earlier today. So I imagine as a 16-year-old, the Sonics were the very first professional sports franchise, major league, in Seattle history. So it's before the Seahawks existed, before the Mariners existed. So my dad and I used to go to Sonics games at the Seattle Center Coliseum, and I was an insane fan, okay? But I was very lucky that a kid from my high school who was a ball boy for the Sonics decided, well, he didn't decide, his parents decided to move out of town. So I convinced him to let me go down and interview with the trainer, and I got a job. But I talk about those years all the time, because there are very few people who do what I do, be president of a NBA team, who ever had the opportunity to be in a locker room and see the interaction between players and coaches and the media and the training staff and the doctors, and those dynamics really haven't changed. So it was real practical experience for what I'm doing today.
Gosh, I love hearing that. It really is all about transferable skills, right?
It is.
Now, is it safe for me to say that the Golden State Warriors ball boys are the most highly respected ball boys by the front office?
I'm treated like royalty, because you don't know. One of those kids is going to be commissioner someday.
And maybe in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm curious. I want to work backwards again, because your career is so fascinating. In 2011, September 2011, you accept the job as president and COO of the Golden State Warriors. Just to set the table, that's 2 years after Steph was drafted, months after Clay was drafted. And in the process, you oversee a team that goes from professionals like Andrew Bogut and young Steph Curry to now being a global brand. All I have to do is look out into this audience in Springfield, Massachusetts, and see the number of Bay Bridges on t-shirts, and to know that. What's been particularly fun about that ride for you that maybe you didn't expect?
Well, my arrival coincided with the sale of the team. I came shortly thereafter, so our two primary owners, Joe Lacob and Peter Guber, had bought a team that, while it was very popular with fans, had missed the playoffs 16 out of the 17 previous years. Do you know how hard that is in a league where over half the teams make the playoffs every year? I defy you to write that business plan and be able to execute it, right? Impossible.
It's strangely impressive.
But for people like me who'd been in the game our whole lives, we looked at the Warriors and said, oh my gosh, like if you could ever get that team in the right ownership and management hands, it should stand toe-to-toe with any franchise, not just in the NBA, any franchise in sports, where we live. The future of the world's being determined by the companies, you know, the Apples, the Googles, the Facebooks that are located where we play, and this amazing fan support. So, you know, I will say I do counsel, if you want to have the success on a par with what the Warriors are enjoying now, I do suggest you always buy an NBA team that already has Steph Curry on the roster. Because your chances for success have been greatly enhanced if you do that, which happened before you got there, right? But I think what's so great for me is to talk to fans in the Bay Area who've been, you know, we used to call them long-suffering Warriors fans, and now, you know, 4 trips consecutively to the NBA Finals, 3 NBA championships. They never thought they would ever see in their lifetime. And, you know, that experience for our fans right now, I think, is probably the most exciting part of the whole thing.
Absolutely. And before that, you spent nearly a decade in Phoenix, operating in the same capacity. And so I'm curious about how the challenges were different in Phoenix compared to the Bay Area, and maybe what told you that the job was either complete in Phoenix or there was a really exciting new challenge to take in the Bay Area.
Well, Phoenix has a great history as an incredibly well-run franchise, very well-respected, and you know, to have the opportunity to go there. I got there at a time where we were having some hard times. I seem to be attracted to situations where, you know, things aren't going great, but there's the potential to go great, and Phoenix had been great, wasn't great at the time. We actually were struggling a little bit financially. So for me, an opportunity to come into a real storied franchise and get us back to where everyone expects the Phoenix Suns to be. And, you know, not unlike my Steph Curry story, I would always suggest that you sign a free agent. The year we won 29 games, the following July 1, we signed this point guard, Steve Nash. I don't know if you've heard of him, and went from 29 wins to 62 wins in 1 year, which still to date is the record for the greatest increase in number of wins from one season to another. And, you know, what I'm most proud of is that team really transformed the way the game was played. We went from a very more defensive-minded, low-scoring, slower game to Mike D'Antoni's genius of this amazingly fast-paced game where you need a great point guard to fly down the court, distribute the ball, and make it go like this. And scores went up. We drew people to the game because I think that style of play brings out the beauty of basketball, unlike any other style of play. And, you know, we talk about it at Golden State. The Golden State is really the perfection of those Phoenix teams. That's where it started. Wow. And the style of play that we play today, actually our general manager at the time in Phoenix was Steve Kerr. You know, I was there. You know, and some others in our organization. Steve Nash is a consultant for us, coaches our point guards. He's the one who's coaching Steph Curry on a regular basis. So we call it Phoenix North because we really feel like that thing that was born in Phoenix was really brought to perfection and proven out that you could win championships with that style of play. It was always like, yeah, that's a lot of fun to watch, but you can't win championships with that. Here are 3 championships to prove you can.
That's interesting. It really puts into context for me, one of my favorite lineups of the last 25 years, which was in Phoenix, the 4 guards and Antonio McDyess. That was one of my favorite lineups to watch. But putting it into context, it makes perfect sense. So before that, there's this little thing that happened in 1992 with this team of American professional basketball players, the Dream Team. And you were instrumental. You were the guy in charge of making sure that the marketing and the development happened. And what always fascinated me about that, and even more as I get up in age, is how you were able to take 15 different established superstars, all who had their own marketing departments and plans in place already, and somehow massage that all to make it so that it was one cohesive unit. I was wearing Dream Team stuff. Everyone that I knew was wearing Dream Team garb. We were no longer wearing our Jordan jerseys, our Magic jerseys. Can you talk about the unique challenges of that assignment in your life?
Well, Chuck Daly, the coach, is who did what you just described, is get all those guys to get on the same page and play the way that team played. But for those of you who need a little history lesson, there's some really young faces here. So prior to that Olympics, NBA players, American NBA players, were not allowed to play in the Olympics. That's just the way the world worked. We as Americans looked at it differently. We had NBA players playing in the Olympics, but they were playing for other countries, not for the United States. And the United States in international competition had really fallen on hard times. We would throw our best college players together 2 weeks before the Olympics and send them off to play these teams that had trained together for years and were seasoned professionals. And we weren't good enough. We weren't winning. And we felt, everyone around basketball felt that the United States should have the best basketball teams in the world. This is where the game was born. This is where the greatest players are. So prior to 1992, for 3 or 4 years, we worked very hard to become a part of the international basketball community. We had to, USA Basketball, we've referred to a few times, was called ABA USA, for Amateur Basketball Association of the United States of America. That had to change to USA Basketball. The Olympics had to agree to take us. We were not part of the, FIBA is the international governing body. We were not part of FIBA either. So we had worked really hard to do some international competitions to prove we'd be good partners. And then secretly in January, secretly at the All-Star game before the Olympics started, we did a secret photo shoot at All-Star that was, I'm going to hopefully get all these right. It was Patrick Ewing, Larry Bird, Karl Malone, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan in USA uniforms. Nobody knew the picture had been taken.
Wow.
And 2 weeks later, Sports Illustrated came out with a cover that said, "Look out, world, this could be America's Dream Team." And so some copywriter at Sports Illustrated is the one who came up with Dream Team. But from that moment on, it stuck. And like, I get goosebumps talking about it now, because there will never be a team fielded in any team sport like that team that went to Barcelona. 11 Hall of Famers were on that team. And it transformed, I would say it accelerated the sport of basketball by 20 years in those 2 weeks in Barcelona, because the rest of the world became totally enamored with that dream team. And in the United States, for those of you who were there, it was actually a little controversial, because we Americans have a sense of fair play. And it was almost like, well, our players are too good to compete at the Olympics. Well, that's interesting. Are runners too good to compete at the Olympics? Or are swimmers? Or are gymnasts, are they too good to compete? But so in the United States, it was a little bit controversial. The rest of the world totally embraced it. And I was just, if you watched the film before you came in here, Pau Gasol was talking about, I was a 12-year-old kid when that dream team played, and that's what inspired me to play basketball. And there are, the Manu Ginobilis, the Dirk Nowitzkis, the Pau Gasols, all over the world, that many of them first became fixated on basketball because of that dream team. So basketball internationally around the world is in a completely different place today had that dream team not happened.
You talk about accelerating the game, and another one of your innovations also helped to accelerate the game, and you referenced All-Star Weekend as well, when you had the secret photo shoot. In '84, All-Star Weekend was another one of your brainchildren. What about the game in 1984 did Rick Welts think is ready for and can sustain, and the market was eager for something like All-Star Weekend, something that my children take for granted now? Slam dunk contest. They know the slam dunk contest winner, I think, probably better than they know what they're, what they ate for lunch, right? And so what about the game at the time told you that it was ready?
Well, again, a little bit of a history lesson. What All-Star Weekend used to be, or what All-Star used to be, is we'd all fly into a city on a Saturday. Everybody stayed at one hotel. You went to a really bad banquet the night before with a crummy comedian, and then you played the All-Star game on Sunday and went home. So
Sounds lovely.
That was pretty much it. So a couple of things intersected. We're going to go to Denver, Colorado for All-Star in 1984. Denver, as you probably know, has a very proud American Basketball Association history, ABA history. And in 1976, one of the most famous events in the history of basketball, you got to go to YouTube and take a look sometime, the 1976 ABA Slam Dunk Contest, which became legend. And young Dr. J, Julius Erving, won that ABA Slam Dunk Contest. So fast forward to 1984, we're going back to Denver with this great ABA heritage, and their president of the Nuggets, Carl Scheer, thought it would be really cool if we honored their ABA heritage by staging a slam dunk contest at halftime of the All-Star game. I like, Carl, I think we're on CBS. They've got other halftime programming. I don't think that's going to work. But the other really important thing that was happening that weekend is our current commissioner, Larry O'Brien, was retiring. And the day after the All-Star game, David Stern, at age 42, was going to become commissioner of the NBA. And David had spent a long time leading up to that talking about what his, what things were going to be important to him as commissioner. And one of them was getting back in the history, getting back into the history of the game. The NBA, had, in his mind, had done a horrible job embracing these amazing athletes, coaches, the people who had made the game what it was. And we just didn't take care of that. So when he was going to be commissioner, we were going to honor that. So that was really a combination of those two ideas when I went to him before he was commissioner and said, what if we did a second day of events? We'll call it All-Star Saturday. We'll have an old-timers game, a slam dunk contest, and long story short, it turned out to be a pretty magical day. Yeah. Julius Erving came back, was in the finals at the very end of his career against rookie Larry Nance, and Julius did one amazing dunk that he'd done in the ABA contest to close the competition, but the judges kind of did a passing of the torch from Julius Erving to Larry Nance, a new rookie player in our league, and there was a passing of the torch to David Stern as commissioner that weekend too. So, it got more attention than we'd ever gotten before, and I don't even recognize it today. I mean, it's crazy today.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide convention of basketball. So, it started from very humble beginnings, and with, those are the ideas that we pulled together to make it happen.
Now, here's the good news. I'm almost done hogging the fun. So I only have 2 questions left for Hall of Famer Rick Welts. If there's something I'm leaving on the floor, if you want to ask a question, if you can't believe I haven't asked the thing you've been listening for. After this question, I'll ask for volunteers. You raise your hand. One of the great Hoop Hall staffers will come around and recognize you, put you in a line to our right, your left, and you will have that opportunity. I'm always blown away at how quickly time passes when we think about it in terms of sports. The WNBA is 20+ years old, which means, as I was talking with Cheryl Swoops last week, that next year's draft will include women who have never been alive in a time before the WNBA, which to me is
a great point.
It's a victory for more society than sport. Can you talk to me about the discussions when the WNBA was about to be launched, and some of the greats, the Swoopses, the Leslies, the Lobos, were all just, Cynthia Cooper, we're all just sitting there waiting. Was the time just so right there in those conversations?
Well, we weren't sure. Yeah. It was a big unknown. There was no women's professional sports league really operating successfully in the United States at that point. We kicked around a few ideas.
Really?
What could we do with this NBA organization we created, and how else could we deploy it successfully? We at one point were crazy enough to think we should start a professional football league and take a run at the NFL. So we talked about that for a while. Another idea was we had something called the Continental Basketball Association, which was not doing well, a minor league in effect for the NBA, and we talked about what eventually did happen many years later, starting our own minor league, which is now the G League, and is going to become much more important over the next few years as college basketball reforms take place. But the third idea was a women's professional basketball league. And It wasn't that unlike the situation. Our American women were not, it was the same situation the men had been in. We were no longer the dominant force in international competition. The way we fielded teams didn't give them a chance to really form a team by the time they went to the Olympics or the World Championships. So the NBA actually agreed with USA Basketball to fund a year-long national team, and that team was together for a year. They traveled the world. Anybody remember their record? 52-0, traveling the world leading up to the Atlanta Olympics. And for the first time, we had a team prepared, and those women absolutely dominated in the Olympics and caught the attention of fans across the country. It came at a really important time for women in sports. That Olympics, I think, I will always remember as the American Women's Olympics, because we won everything. And corporate America figured out maybe they ought to get on board this women's sports thing. So a lot of things came together that made it the right time, but we didn't know. We didn't know if it was going to work or not work, and here we are over 20 years later with, I think, the best women's basketball that's ever been played this year in the WNBA.
I can't stop watching it. And this isn't the first year that I've said that. It is as much of a staple in my sports household as any other league. So, do you have a question for Rick Welts? Raise your hand right now, and you'll be recognized by one of the great Hoop Hall staffers. Put in the line to our right.
Steph Curry over
your
here,
left. Yeah, mini Steph. So my final question involves things off the court, because I think that this year, in the past several years, the NBA has turned into one of the most positive leagues in all of the world. And that goes for the work that you're doing and a lot of the players are doing in terms of social activism. Your work with the You Can Play organization is inspiring and important. Can you assess the way that the league, the hands that the league is in with this generation of stars and coaches and folks in the front office at the highest level, feels like the league is in good, responsible hands for people who want to do good work?
Yeah, I could not be more proud of our players and coaches right now than any time I've been associated with the NBA. Sports, there are people out there who say, sports shouldn't get involved in social issues. And, they're not very good students of history, because sports and social issues have always intersected. It's always been a place where we could talk about really hard things about our society and what was right and what was wrong. Sports has always played that role. And for our players today and our coaches today, smart, articulate people, believe it or not, that have a lot of things to say beyond what play to run when there's 20 seconds left in the game, I think is great. And to have Adam Silver and an organization have owners who supports the players, whether or not they agree with everything they say, right. There's a total respect for everyone's viewpoint and the ability to express it. And I really think the NBA has distinguished itself, unfortunately, in contrast to some of the other leagues. But I do think the NBA has set the right tone with the players, where there's such a trust right now between players and management and what we're all trying to accomplish for the game of basketball.
Rick, thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Welts.
Thank you.
Now, here, I've warned you off mic. This is when the hard questions happen.
Yeah, but they're wearing stuff.
That's how they soften you up.
That's good.
Let's start up. We can have, I only have two requests. One is that you allow me to hold the microphone, and the other is that you introduce yourself to Mr. Welts before you ask the question.
Hey, Mr. Welts. My name is Devin from New York, but I still support the Warriors from afar. So I actually have two questions. So my first question is, in regards to All-Star Weekend.
I'm going to stand up, too. It's making me nervous. You got to talk.
That's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, so in regards to All-Star Weekend, so Rachel Nichols, the host of The Jump, she has this, she's been campaigning this all year long to televise the draft. So if it were to happen to televise the draft, what would you like to see there?
No, I actually thought she was wrong when she first started talking about it, because it's like, oh, sure, you're going to put LeBron James and Steph Curry on television and somebody's going to get picked last. I don't want to be those guys who have to do that. But they've both come out in favor of it. Both LeBron and Steph has said, hey, I actually now think it's a good idea. So I bet it happens, and I think it will be great television, and nobody wants to be that last kid picked, okay?
Oh, no.
So it'll be pretty cool.
Second question. So someone like myself who's been a big NBA fan for a long time, I've always wondered, like, what's it like working in the league and all that. So if I were to, like, get a job in the NBA sometime in the near future, like, what advice would you have for someone like myself who wants to get into it?
I would say do it.
Do it?
Yeah. No, I've spent, I guess now more years. I was at the league for 17 years, and I've been now at teams more than 17 years. So I've really seen both lives. They're very different, and it kind of depends on how what you're cut out for. I loved working for the league. I got to travel the world. I got to see things I never imagined seeing in my lifetime. But pretty much every night, half the teams win and half the teams lose. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much a statistical certainty that will have somebody wins the championship every year. So it's a much more predictable, it's great, but it's a much more predictable life. When you work for a team and you are so invested emotionally in how the Warriors do or how your team does every night, you go through some real ups and downs. You go through some great times, you go through some really hard times. People like me are cut out for that. Not everybody is, because of the unpredictability of kind of how things are going to go. But if you like that, and if you're kind of motivated by that, teams are different, but very, I think, emotionally, for me, more satisfying than working at the league. But both are great.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. And if you do, be sure you get a team that has either Steph Curry or you sign Steve Nash. I've just learned that.
Right.
How's it going, bud?
Hi,
What's going on?
I'm Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
What's your favorite player on the Warriors?
You're wearing it, man. I really can't have a favorite player on the Warriors because they're all kind of my favorite. What I thought you were going to ask me, I get asked, like every one of these I do, like, is Steph Curry really as nice a guy as he seems? And I say no. He's really nicer than he seems. He really is. He's one of the most thoughtful, charitable, nicest human beings on the face of the earth. And he has, it's a credit to great parenting. If you've ever met his parents, Sonia and Del Curry, his dad was an NBA player, a very good NBA player. You know, you'll know why Steph and his brother, Seth, who's also in the league, turned out that way. And will you quit staring at my ring? You wanted to try it on, didn't you? Yeah? Is that what you wanted to do? Better put it on. Do you have somebody here with you who can take a picture of that? Oh yeah, here we go. Hold it up. Hold it up. Oh, that's a new way to wear it. Okay. Yeah, come here. Here we go. You got to give it back, though. Okay. Is that okay?
Thank you very much, buddy. Have a great rest of your summer.
Nice to meet you. Go Warriors.
That just blew his mind.
He'll recover.
How are you?
Great. I'm doing great. My question is, have you ever, like, in the basketball team, have you ever, like, had people, like, question and doubt you couldn't do it, but you still got back up? And there was, like, stumbles and stuff that was hard for you?
What's your name?
Christabel.
Say it again.
Christabel.
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 Christabel. It's a pretty name.
Thank you.
Okay. We all do, right? Isn't that the great lesson that sports teaches us? Because unless I'm missing it, nobody wins all the time. I don't think it works out that way. And I think when you have those moments is when you find out what the best lessons of sports are all about too, because that's really what sports teaches you, right? That you're going to succeed sometimes, and when you don't, you have to figure out how to work harder and come back and try to get it right the next time. And if you don't get it right that time, you come back and try to do it again. So I think sports is a great learning tool for everything you're talking about in life, because you learn how to work with people, you learn how to have shared success.
Yeah, and get out of your comfort.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Try things that you didn't think you could do.
Yeah.
And you'll be good. I think you're going to be successful.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christabel.
Who are you predicting for the NBA Finals next year?
Hi, I'm Nick. Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Nick.
Who's your favorite player of all time?
I'm a Michael Jordan guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, LeBron fans, but
Good answer.
I'm a Michael Jordan guy.
Good answer.
I'm going to get a little crap when I get home because one of my best friends who will be with me when I'm here in a month for the induction is the player with more championship rings than any other in history, Bill Russell.
Yeah,
who
nice.
played for that team.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
Can you imagine having more championship rings than fingers? 11 championships in 13 seasons. That'll never happen again.
No.
History of our sport.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll bring in the closer here. We have oh, we have one more. All right, this is the 8th inning.
How are you, sir? Good. John Fisher
Hi,
from
John.
Yukon area
Nice
of
to meet you.
Connecticut. Political question. What is the stance of the NBA in regards to politics regarding our president, one, and two, what is the NBA doing in regards to LeBron James' school that he's building? Are they going to help in furthering the development of schools, not only in Ohio, but also across the country?
Okay, two good questions. Well, the good news is the NBA doesn't tell anybody how to think about anything politically. The NBA stands behind whatever your individual thoughts and beliefs are and your ability to express those in a safe environment. So, you know, we certainly have, I on my, I didn't bring it on this trip, I don't think, but I do have a Popovich Kerr 2020 t-shirt that I do wear if anybody wants to contribute to their campaign. I think that would be pretty cool. So we have very outspoken players, we have a very outspoken coach on the current administration, and we support exactly what they're doing, but we think anybody with a different opinion has the right to support that too. We were uninvited to the White House our last 2 championships. We were thrilled to be there. Our first championship with Barack Obama. We were not invited to the White House the last 2 times, so I kind of know what he thinks about us. But it's up to each person to have their own beliefs and have the freedom to express that. On LeBron, I mean, he's really setting an example for our entire sport and for every player in every sport on what you can do with your celebrity to do great things. And, you know, education is his focus. The NBA has supported him and all of our players in their charitable endeavors and will continue to do so. But the school he's starting in Ohio is something to be incredibly admired. And I'm also incredibly proud of all of our players who have their own foundations, who do their own giving, support the cause that they want to, whether it's education or something else. It's almost always kid-focused. So I promise you'll see a lot more of that from the NBA as we go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go UConn.
Let me hold the ring.
After.
Come on in. You get the last word. How's that?
All right.
Cool. So I'm Isabel from New York. I just have
Hi,
one
Isabel.
question. How hard is it to be the president of the Golden State Lakers? Is it
Like
hard?
really hard. Really, really hard. They should pay that guy a lot of money.
Do the players give you a hard time?
Yeah, on occasion. Yeah, on occasion. We got this guy. Have you heard of Draymond Green before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How'd you like to be in charge of him? Just kidding. He's a sweetheart. He's a good guy. It's a fun job. It's hard. We're trying to build a new $1 billion arena in San Francisco right now that we're going to open in 12 months, which is pretty challenging to do in San Francisco. So that's really hard. The fun part is I get to go to games, and I get to spend a lot of nights a year watching what I love as much as everybody else here loves, which is the sport of basketball. So I think it's a pretty good gig. You might want to try for that one.
Is it fun? Or?
Of course it's fun. It's really hard, but it's really fun. Really fun. Winning championships is really fun.
Do you get sad or mad at the players when they don't win the championship or no?
Well, let's see. 30 teams and 1 champion. So it's kind of hard to get upset with them. In that year we lost, we were ahead 3-2 and we were ahead 3-1 and should have won. So I'm pretty happy with the way our players are playing. I think we got another good year ahead of us.
Thank you very much. Follow-up questions. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2018, Rick Welts.
That was fun. Thanks, everybody.